But MaharashtraVishnu's story does not end like this. Unfortunately, his story ends here when he was banished from Suda's court. Sudas had told Vishnu of his plans to flood the land because they all had turned their hearts from him and were rising up against him with their children at the lead of the uprising. They were labeled abominations by Sudas, and Vishnu pleaded that they be given a chance to be the proper parents needed to raise them properly. Sudas ordered Vishnu and the other sages that had children to hunt them down. Vishnu, broken-hearted to see what Sudas had become, threw down his sword and renounced his allegiance to Suda's kingdom. Then he was run through from behind by one of his fellow sages under his command. The searing hot pain became the legend of Mikhail's flaming sword that scarred him into becoming Satan, and as all faded into black, the last words he heard was that of being accused of being an unclean thing and that his place would no longer be found in heaven, and thus Vishnu died, falling into the swirling darkness of the eternal sleep.
Once upon a time, that's how all the stories start. They all start from the incident that happened. As days pass and become months, years, decades, and millennia passes, that incident becomes a story, a legend, and gradually becomes an epic. India is a land of epics, but it is also a land of forgotten epics. Apart from Ramayana and Mahabharata, there is an even more ancient story that has been forgotten. The story of the very first global war. The story of the first revolt in the human history. That ancient story is called Dasharagna, or the Battle of 10 Kings. It all started in 3000 BCE. King Sudas was a powerful king. He inherited the kingdom from his grandfather Devodas Atigwa and greatly expanded it. The great sage Vishwamitra was the priest of Sudas. He led him to victorious campaigns all across the known lands of the time, either by using force or using his intellect. As the king's power grew, so did his arrogance. With each victory he had, his kingdom expanded, and with it, his ego. Although he knew that some of the credit for his victories should go to Vishwamitra, he started ignoring it. As the times passed, he even refused to acknowledge Vishwamitra's presence in the meeting halls and took decisions all by himself, gave himself all the credit for the victories. Vishwamitra, saddened at first, did not argue with the king, but his sadness soon became anger when the news came that sage Vasishtha has been given his place as minister. Sage Vishwamitra stormed into the meeting halls to question the king of his decision, and for which he was banished from the kingdom. King Sudas became so self-indulging that he forgot the other smaller kingdoms. He transferred all the wealth from those kingdoms to fill his vaults and used them for his own pleasures. While the people of those kingdoms were suffering, Sudas was enjoying the comforts of his bed and the pleasures of his concubines. For Sudas, this seemed an eternal reality, but nothing ever is eternal in the world. Sage Vishwamitra wandered around, lost, depressed, and desperate. Desperate to take back his position, desperate to see Sudas fail, and desperate for revenge. He saw the crumbling lives of people around in smaller kingdoms. The sight turned Vishwamitra's desperation into anger, and out of his anger he saw an opportunity, a plan to unite all the kingdoms and wage a war against mighty Sudas. The war that would redefine and rewrite the course of history. Vasishtha, the now advisor of Sudas, made efforts to get Sudas back to senses. Grand alliance of the 10 kings on one side and Sudas and his much smaller army on the other waiting for the move, and the war started. It was fought for many years. The mightiest of the mighty warriors of all the 10 kingdoms fell upon Sudas, but Sudas was not ready to give up any time soon. Years passed, but the mighty warriors of the 10 kingdoms were not stopping, and Sudas, deprived of resources and defenses, had to retreat. Sudas and his army was forced to retreat, but managed to cross Personi River safely. All the armies of the 10 kingdoms descended upon Sudas to finish him. That's when the masterstroke of sage Vasishtha happened. He cast a spell on waters of Personi River and brought a huge flash flood. The Battle of 10 Kings, or Dasaragnya War, is the world's first recorded battle. Not just that, it was not a mere Neolithic stick and stone fight. It was the first organized war with infantry, archers, and elephant. War was in the blood of Sudas and his bloodline too. After 15 generations of Kuru dynasty, Kauravas and Pandavas were born, who fought the epic battle Mahabharata.
The war did not end there, it seems. The war carried on through their children Samjazel, son of Samael, Mathakiel, the son of Vishnu, Azrael, son of Azazel, and Samael and Azazel themselves. The other 2 sages under my command were captured as they attempted to flee the kingdom secretly, and 2 others made it out of the kingdom and fled into the Arabic regions and took the names of Zerubbabel and Joachim as I understand it, but I'm still checking on those leads. They went on to build the city of Jericho, which was the next battle in this conflict. When Jericho fell to the forces of Joshua in a battle for the promised lands.
These are the ancient Israelites. Relentless warriors described in the Bible as soldiers of God. They are fierce, unwavering, and ruthless. Their leader is Joshua, a brilliant military strategist poised to bring the Israelites into the promised land, the land of Canaan. To fulfill this mission, Joshua and his army fight some of the most brutal battles described in the Bible. Perhaps none is more well known than the Battle of Jericho. An intricate tale of espionage, psychological warfare, and the extermination of an entire population. But Jericho is only the first in a long military campaign designed to conquer the land of Canaan. A campaign filled with blood and slaughter.
This coincidentally is running alongside the battle that led to the hill of Golgotha's name, but I don't think so, because this would also be the battle of the Jacobites that slaughtered the Amalekites when they invaded across the Sunni River. A battle mentioned in the Bible of the 2 men standing on opposite sides of the river. A battle that was so horrific that the blood of the Amalekites turned the river Jordan red all the way from the Sunni River. A majority of the sages of the world almost disappeared with this battle, and their number dwindled to only 200 after this slaughter. Until recently our numbers have increased to over 200,000 now. The thing is that it is hard to verify information from the Arabic regions, for they hold very closely to their people's personal affairs and often promote telling the world lies to cover up the truth more so than being honest and sharing their knowledge with other cultures. There are a long list of examples to this, such as the more popular character of Jesus of Nazareth. Now, what is written in the Bible and the true life of Jesus are 2 different stories. Honestly, no one knows the true life of Jesus because of various reasons. The Bible was written by the hands of the very people who convicted him, hunted down every apostle listed in the Bible, and is written in such a fashion to where his life portrayed in the Bible actually defies and breaks almost every Abrahamic code or law that their people were to live by. His lineage traces back to Abraham by the Bible's account, including descendants of David, Solomon, as well as Zerubbabel and even the Ra, who are denounced as demonic entities by the Catholic and Christian beliefs, as Zerubbabel became Beelzebub after his transgression from God caused his fall and had a lead role in the fall and death of Solomon, as it was he who sent the demonic temptress that led to his death. If they went by the biblical accounts of Jesus as his true life story, then it would justify and clarify the reason the Muslim and Islamic people do not accept or acknowledge that Jesus Christ as a prophet or as the Son of God, or even to have existed, as their laws would require them to act accordingly to that behavior. But they must realize that this Bible was written after the slaughter of thousands of believers, and that every one of the apostles who are listed to have given their account of Jesus were executed by the Roman Empire in that time. These are the details as to why no true angel of God should or would promote or accept this Christ narrative that is institutionalized into what it is today. No one knows the true life of Jesus or what he said or even did.
From the dust of empire, new forces rise. New ideas propel us forward. New beliefs unite us and tear us apart. Amidst the chaos of an unforgiving planet, most species will fail. But for one, all the pieces will fall into place, and a set of keys will unlock a path for mankind to triumph. This is our story, the story of all of us.
However, it is known and accepted among those of heaven that Jesus the Nazarene was the Son of God, for God has expressed that it was his plan to come to earth, to live as a mortal man for a time and die as one, in order to win the faith of the people at that time who suffered under the rule of the temple priests, posing as gods to the people. What is known to us about his life comes from their accounts of angels who were present at that time and involved. It is known that the Immaculate Conception was true, and that the light of God was placed inside the womb of Mary, who was barren at that time. A process once used by the fallen angels to bear children to the mortal women. An idea I had proposed while in my coma, for I knew of the Immaculate Conception story, but even more so, I know exactly how the process is done. Another thing that we are sure of is that when Jesus was a child, he did burst out in anger towards the priests of the temple and tore it down, not because he was like Samson, but because he was having a moment of a past life flashback from when he was God during the time of Moses and unmasking the Pharaoh to free the Hebrews. Next, it is known by my own account and actions that the temptation of Jesus did occur, but not as was recorded sort of. He was by the river Jordan, brought there to see John the Baptist. His father did appear in the form of a dove and landed upon his shoulder. His father proved that he was to John by committing certain acts that only the true God of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob knew of, acts of speaking their language by using the spirits of their forefathers to translate his words into their language, appearing through visions and dreams, which was what began the entire Egyptian practice of using oils and incense to alter their state of mind so they could see and communicate with him. After proving who he was, he told John that the Mashkaret or young child was his son and that God was his other parent. For it was once known that their God who appeared in this form had always proclaimed that he was a warrior sent by the one who ruled the kingdom of the light. Of course, the fact that desire and gender identification was never an issue to angels. Only when mankind seeks to bring harm upon themselves to convince them they are something that they are not, only then do we concern ourselves with such things. Another situation that we are certain happened comes from the accounts of the angel who was present with him while he was waiting to be convicted for the charges he was arrested for conspiring against the Roman Empire when he proclaimed his desire to try and find a way to free his brother. His brother was arrested for crimes of inciting a riot and being the leader of the traditional movement occurring at that time. Jesus offered up himself to take the guilt of his brother in order to free him and was executed at the request of the Hebrew Sanhedrin priests. Pontius Pilate, feeling jealous and spiteful because of his culture's views of demigods and them earning their right to be accepted as gods through trials and tests of virtue, seeing this common man being given the title of that like a demigod to be a mere teacher to the common people made him detest Jesus and so decided to have him executed as the priests requested and freed his brother under the false record of being a murderer named Barabbas. That much of his life we in heaven are certain of because it is accounts from other angels who gave an account of what transpired at that time. There is one other account that has to do with an alien abduction of Jesus' body after he was entombed in order to take genetic samples for replication purposes, but that's okay, let's try this again. Another step towards being able to summon the enigma most have come to call the devil, a being which I am a branch of, Angramana in Philistine religions and Zoroastrianism in general. That will give you a more in-depth means to understand further what I speak of. I should clarify that many of these cultural references I portray here is a part of something I should not know about, as far as they know at least. That these associated traits are references to what I have been empowered with since the battle with Sargon began. I mentioned that during that first fight I had been endowed with certain additional power due to their creation of Samael. They unknowingly poured everything they believed the devil would consist of having and molded it into their vessel to usurp my authority. Before this I was a decently skilled Nephilim descendant, my power slowly growing with every journal I studied of my ancestors. Then this scenario happened. We defeated Samael at his birth and imprisoned him, but we could not destroy him because unlike the others like him that were wiped out completely by heaven's army, Samael survived because they made him too powerful. He had developed a soul, and had shown the emotional desire for love and experienced love at some point. Not only that, but he had been made capable of defying his own maker and able to rise up against him to make war. It's a part of being the rebellious angel. When they gave him that, they wrote their own defeat as he turned against his makers and killed the foolish ones who began all this. His makers. In doing all this, whatever power and authority was bestowed to Samael was bestowed to me. Many of those powers came with agreements, pacts, deals, alignments with certain powers. At the time you were required to be listed in the Book of Life. Therefore a creation of God's for you had a purpose, a designed destiny to fulfill. Every grain of sand upon that beach had a place that supported the rest of creation by just being who they are, even down to the smallest bug. Samael was not a part of this, but he was a part of God's grand design. Or was he? I am beginning to see something become a possibility here. What if stealing heaven's secrets was not Azazel and Samael goal? What if they were but a simple distraction to what the real goal was? However, once again, I stray off topic. Another process that is a part of summoning my higher state of being, whom you all call the devil, is the channeling of my will into the summoner. Take a pen and paper, sit down someplace quiet and without distractions. Now focus and concentrate in your mind what the very essence of evil consists of. Allow your hand to be guided by the unseen hand of evil itself. Focus on what you want from it, to draw, through you, the symbol of sigil that can call him forth to gain an audience with him. Allow your hand to become consumed by the essence of that evil and accumulate to the point of your pen and the paper, allowing that essence to become inked with its energy and the designs influenced by evil's will. Once you have finished with the sigil drawing, be sure to set the images in your mind that now you must be cleansed of its presence, so that those of the light do not use it as a means to try and attack him. The connection must be separated. If he understands what you are saying, you will be provided with the means in which to cleanse yourself of evil's energy. To many it will be hard to maintain this focus on evil's essence, so when the mind loses focus, the connection will fade slightly. Just remember that and go over areas that may become unclear in those moments. Those who have practiced meditation will be more skilled than others in this area. This method sends out a calling to that entity, but it does not demand their presence to appear. Keep that in mind. This process calls upon the principality's attention. This specific path calls upon Barachil, the angelic principality of evil, from which every incarnate of evil came forth from, but is still yet only a small part of my being himself, even though he is the angelic principality of my designed being. For remember, the living embodiment holds the most influence over all others. The other aspects do not truly come into an important play until after the body's death. Life is a gift from God. In life we are given the ability to speak our minds, make our dreams come true, take action on issues that we feel are important. Life gives us the power to act and make a difference. Once we die, we lose that aspect, and our choices and direction is dictated by others, from the wake that sends the spirit towards his final resting place, to the judgment passed down by God to where we shall go to learn what we refused to learn in life, or whether or not for some, those select few, who have accomplished all the Lord has asked of us and we have lived right in his eyes. Then one can rest within paradise, a place of such serenity and bliss that I had a glimpse of once before being sent back and cannot truly describe in words. At times you can sense the principal concepts of the universe seemingly struggling against other forces. Within my writings, you can sense the intensity of that principal aspect growing stronger in both definition, and the conversation's topic even will become consumed by that emotional aspect. These moments can be examined, and the energy you sense emulating through the words can be used to call forth that presence in a calling, but be careful not to confuse just a regular spiritual presence for a principality, otherwise you may inadvertently fuse the spirit with the power of that element, causing much turmoil for that spirit as it will become entangled with it. Well, this should conclude my branch of summoning and calling upon the guidance of powers and principalities. May the Father of Enlightenment guide you towards truth, wisdom and understanding. As above, so too shall it be below. For nothing is true and everything is permitted. For those who do not yet know, that last sentence and its meaning pertains to fate and destiny, for nothing is ever finite and true until it is set in stone and has happened so. Until that moment, we have the power to make a change, thus nothing is definite and true, only possible. Everything is permitted pertains to the fact that everything that has happened up to this point has happened because we have permitted it to happen, we allowed it to occur for whatever reason. Everything from this moment on, now that we are aware of the functions of cause and effect, from that point on things will only truly happen that we permit to happen, for we are enlightened to the grand scheme of things and can see the world from a larger picture type of perspective. Therefore everything is permitted to occur and nothing is by accident. An esoteric mantra that empowers the student by allowing him to see himself in a greater view.